And this is one of the things that we do. Sister Melendez was gracious in sharing some of these trade secrets.
Trade secrets.
Trade secrets with us. Yes. No, it's incredible that, until we were all thrust into using this Zoom platform, many of us, including myself, did not know how to use this platform. My husband, he used to teach technology to students, and he says, Vanessa, you're better at the Zoom platform than I am now. So it's a new platform for many of us. So once again, I welcome you, and I'm going to ask Sister Melendez to introduce and tell us a little bit about her husband, Seth Melendez, who is our guest speaker for this evening.
Well, thank you so much. It's a privilege for me to share with everyone about Mr. Seth Melendez, my other half. And so am I spotlighting? There we go. Well, there you go. That's Seth.
Yes, Brother Melendez. I just spotlighted you so everyone can see. Yes, have a good view of.
Seth Melendez. So Seth, as you know, is my husband. He is the president of WareGeeks Solutions. And what we specifically do at WareGeeks Solutions is that we deal with data. One of the things that we deal with. Data is important and data is king. That's something that you're going to hear my husband say a lot. How do you protect that data? He has the answers. And so my husband has been in the technology industry for over 20 years. He started at New York Hospital, right, babe? Was it New York Hospital? He started at New York Hospital and has worked for such companies as Tiffany's, as Hewlett-Packard Enterprises, New York City Board of Education. So he does have some knowledge when it comes to technology. And when it comes to protecting your data, my husband's going to tell you that the simple things that we're not doing is really exposing us to dangers of what we call hackers, what we know as just leaving ourselves out there. So my husband is the expert, and it is my privilege to introduce him so that he can share with us some very much needed information in terms of not only how do we protect our own data, but as part of self-supporting ministries, how do we protect our clients' data as our clients are coming in? And also when it comes to going out there and sharing information about our own businesses. Social media, that's the thing of the future. So Seth is going to be sharing a little bit about that. There is some information. He does have a PowerPoint to present to everyone, and I will be forwarding that PowerPoint out to the group. I actually have my own folder in which I'm going to give access to everyone. If you are not a group member of the GMM group, you're going to have to email me your email address so that I can send you the PowerPoint or give you access to the PowerPoint. So you can go ahead and just put it in the chat.
Amen. Thank you.
No problem. Direct message me, and I will go over and share Seth's information in addition to his PowerPoint that he'll be sharing today. I'm going to turn it over to Seth Melendez.
Hi, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's a great welcome. I've been in this industry for a while, over 20 some odd years, working with data. And I think a lot of people who've worked with security look at data differently or look at security differently. Some people are into the lock everything down type of methodology. Others are into, let the individual deal with it. As a business, it's the business responsibility to make sure everyone is following the rules. And one of the things is a household, and as Christians in that, one of the things we want to do individually outside of business is make sure that your house and your family are protected. And some of the principles, actually all of the principles that we share, that I will share today, will affect your family. And understand that there are people out there that are looking for weaknesses to go after family members, whether they're old, whether they're young, and in between. If somebody who doesn't have a lot of mental capacity, maybe they're disabled mentally at times, there are people that are preying on that, and then they're preying on those who are unknowing, those who have a giving spirit. I know I've heard from a lot of Christians saying, well, I trusted that person, or I trusted this. And it's not that they were stupid, they let their guard down. And I don't dissuade you from doing that, but an ounce of prevention will help you not get yourself put into a bad situation where it could affect you monetarily and make, risk something in your household. So I did prepare, I have a PowerPoint presentation. I don't want you to think that I'm going to go over all of it. I shared this information with you as a foundation for anyone who's working with business, so that they have something to read and understand more in depth when they get a chance. But I will go over some of it so that you guys can understand as a whole what a small business, people keep thinking small businesses aren't affected by this, but no, they are affected. And we see it every day. Dealing with major corporations, Fortune 500, Fortune 100, they deal with it definitively every day on a large scale. But homeowners are targeted. Small businesses are targeted. And the smaller, the more targeted you are. And I'll go through the reasonings as we go through the presentation. I'll explain more of it so you understand. And then I'll open it up for questions and we'll go from there. But let me share my presentation and then we can start. Give me 1 second. Let me open it up.
You've got powers, Brother Melendez.
What powers? What do you mean?
You're a co-host.
Any blessings I have in my life are because of God. You know what I mean? I'm just an idiot here, just standing here, reciting anything that He's given, any wisdom that I've gotten in my life is because of God. So,
Amen.
Other than
Amen. Praise the Lord.
You're right. I'm just an idiot. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So you let me know when you see it.
We can see it.
Yes, we see it.
Okay, let me. I'm gonna start. Yeah, I'll leave it open. Hold on.
Take a moment.
Yeah, I got it. Hold on 1 second. Let me start the beginning. There we go. There we go. That's what I wanted you to see. There you go. And let me open up the second part. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay, so these are the fundamentals. So no matter your size, no matter your size of your company or organization, cybersecurity is a critical element for success. This cybersecurity for small business presentation can be used to share the hows and twos of cybersecurity as recommended by NIST. In this industry, we follow what is called NIST, which is a government agency. It's the National Institute of Standard and Technology. That group is responsible for all the federal government, what standard they use throughout, and then they give recommendations to the rest of the country for all businesses. And so what we do in this industry in cybersecurity and IT is we use those standards, those minimum standards, and build on that. A lot of agencies have used the foundations of what NIST gives on their codes and not a lot of their information, and have built on that. So when you see different governmental agency security setups, a lot of it is built on NIST. So that's what we use. It's okay. So you and your team and the community will learn the steps to understand cybersecurity risk and the steps to mitigate them. Your particular industry may have additional and related cybersecurity regulatory and privacy recommendations. So the best practice, the information that follows is intended to be customizable, flexible, and non-regulatory. as of right now. We're just giving you a general idea. If you're in a specific area that needs HIPAA, that needs any type of regulatory oversight, or you have to follow the standards, then you would ask for those things from a professional that can tell you, okay, those are the things you need to implement, and this is how you go about doing it. So there you go. So the next one, why does it matter? Cybersecurity matters. Hold on. I went too far right here. Here we go. So cybersecurity matters because we need people to understand that they are in a world that small business think that they're too small. You know, a lot of businesses think, we have professionals, they're doing their job. We have to understand that if you are attacked, you don't think you'll ever be attacked. It's that what value do you bring to a hacker? Let's say you're a one-person operation, what value do you bring? Understand that they're not just going after your money. They don't want just your bank account. Oh, I don't have a lot in my bank. I don't have a lot of credit, whatever it is. Your computer itself can be utilized in their tools to attack, to go to war with other countries, to utilize it to sniff on people, in a sense, to monitor other people. So your computer, your device, whether it's a laptop, tablet, even your phone, can be used in their process or their methodology to do harm or to get information from others. And they can use your device and you won't know. Sometimes people have called me, hey, my computer's slow. I think I got a virus. It's been like this for a day or two. I can't get into it. Everything's freezing. You get to it, you find out it's been infected with one of the things that are considered botnets. So they've in turn turned your machine into a robot for themselves so that they can go out and attack others or to gain information and become a repository for them. So you could wind up being a pawn utilized. So your value to these hackers can be way more than what you believe it is. And by you not following the minimum standard, you become a pawn in this game. So if we had a lot of people just do the minimum, there'd be a lot less pawns out there to use. And that's just one aspect of it. There are multiple aspects, but that's the easiest that we can explain to others, to you guys, so that you can understand that you don't want to be that person. People think, well, I'm not a social media person. It doesn't matter if you're on social media. You send emails, you receive emails, you may get texts, you may send texts. You could wind up sending texts out, not realizing it, that it's infected with a line of code in it. It'll be a link and you're sending it to all your friends. You don't realize it. Or your machine is being used to send out email to everyone on your list and you don't realize it. You may realize it when they send you, somebody says, hey, and a few days later or a day later, hey, you sent me something and I think I got infected. So that's why we're trying to get businesses and small businesses to follow. So the next thing is why do they hack? There's lots of reasons, why hackers hack. Plain and simple. I think it was one of the old bank robbers said, that's where the money's at. Well, they hack because that's where the money's at. They go after large corporations, or like I just said, they hack for different reasons. It could be governments, China, Russia, Iran, all these governments that have their own agendas, and they're coming after America. They're coming after, a lot of European countries. They're going after the government itself, or they're going after specific corporations. There are independent hacker groups that have their own agendas. And then you have the local kids, the criminals. There are tons of criminals out there. And then you have kids that are just bored. I remember last year when the COVID hit, you had a lot of kids that were bored. And what happened? You had all what they called Zoom bombings. people jumping into people's Zooms, disrupting it, making stupid nuisances of themselves. You had that for a while, and a lot of that had to do with a bunch of kids being home and nothing to do. And it was easily able to get in because people were sharing their Zoom information publicly. And so people would find it, kids would find it, they'd search the internet and just show up and act a fool. So that's one of the reasons. And if you go in and look at some of the statistics on here, you'll see it. It's organized crime, there's governments, there's a lot of reasons why people are hacking, and the patterns and the type of things that they're looking to gain out of this. There is a monetary gain. If I have 10,000 people who have a botnet on their machine, I don't need to get money from you. I just need your machine, because now I can go hack someone or join a group, and now I can get money because of that, utilizing your machine, you and 10,000 other people. And make no mistake, we've found and seen some of these groups and their consoles. The FBI has shown us other hacker groups, what they call white hatters, which are cybersecurity people who go after the hackers, and they go into the dark net, which I'll explain in a minute, and they find them and literally break into their stuff, and they show the world and they show us what they have. And they show what it looks like. And when you look inside, you'll literally see 10, 20,000 computers connected to their console that they can utilize in any way. They can actually go in. If you have a camera, turn on your camera, turn on any audio. They can turn your computer off. If you're doing something they don't want, they can stop you. So there's a lot that they have control over once they're in your machine. They can get rid of your data. So that's one of the reasons, like I said, why they hack. Okay, so what you're going to learn is some of the cybersecurity basics. And what we have is risk assessment, risk management, the cybersecurity framework, and some of the resources that I have. I'm not going to go into depth on a lot of this stuff. Like I said, I will just skim over this, and then we'll get to the questions. I think that'll be the best way to answer. Just start answering some of your direct questions. That'll be the best way to resolve some of the, to help with some of the time and everything, and get you the best results and answers. So some of the basics that we have here, cybersecurity is protecting electronic devices and associated data information. That's what cybersecurity is that we're just trying to protect your devices. And when we say devices, laptop, phones, tablets, anything that can communicate. Remember, there's a lot of things in your house that you may not realize that are communicating, that we consider devices. If you have a thermostat that is one of those new smart thermostats, it's communicating to the internet, and you may not realize it. If you have one of the ones from Amazon or the Nest or any one of those type, they are communicating to the internet, and you don't realize it. And there was a company recently that a hacker was able to get through a thermostat into their network, break in, stole all their data through the thermostat connection, and went back out the internet, and no one knew it until almost a month later. So you have to think of all those things that you have in your house. Sometimes you have, I just remember recently, there was a device for kids that it's almost like a little mini tablet, and that thing is connected, and it's just a toy, and it's connected to the internet. Somebody could technically come through that and get into your network, and if you have a small business at home, they can get in. So that's the basics. That's one of the basics. And this is the complexity of modern business. You have email, mobile devices, you have your websites, social media, obviously banking, different commerce, Google, Amazon. There's a ton of places you can go to do to e-commerce, and a lot of people, especially small businesses, when you're working with someone, or if you bring someone in to work with you, a lot of times they bring their own computers. So that's what BYOD, bring your own device. And you don't have a rule. They can do whatever they want with that device, and then they bring it to your network, or connect to your stuff, and they're creating the risk for you. And the network management and backup stuff. If you're backing stuff up, if you're not doing it properly, if something happens, you won't be able to restore. So this is and then these are the objectives: the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That's the whole purpose of cybersecurity. And we go through that. Protect your information from unauthorized access and disclosure. And examples, you have criminal stealing usernames, passwords, credit card information. There was just another hack the other day, or not, let me say hack, let me rephrase that. There was a breach. There are different types of hacks or different types of incidents that people do and things like that, where they're listed as hacks, but we call them different things because of where they came from and the type of information. So a breach of information is no one hacked your computer, but they hacked Netflix, or they hacked YouTube, or they went and they hacked not only Netflix, Amazon. They hacked someone else, and without your knowledge, they contained all that information along with your information, and they shared it amongst themselves and was ready to sell it. And one white hatter went out there and found it, and said, "Hey, now we know that's out there being sold," and they report it. A lot of the times these breaches are the actual company that was breached does not even know that they were breached. Netflix didn't tell anyone for 6 months that they were breached last year. They knew for 6 months. And supposedly they didn't know that it was actually 3 months before that data came out, that the data was stolen. So they knew. So we're talking, almost 8 months, 9 months that your data was in someone's hands and you didn't even know about it. And so that's where the breaches come in. And so when you see someone talk about a breach, and I'll give you some quick information of next time you hear a breach, what you can do to make sure that your data is safe and that your information is safe. I can explain that to you, and we can get into that later on. But the integrity of your data, protect your information from anyone changing it. You have tons of incidences where kids are changing grades in schools. That's just a low level type thing. You don't want anyone changing anything, like they say, altering payroll information or designs. When in business, you don't want someone, it's been known for a competitor, and this happened in small business. A plumbing company was able to break into another plumbing company's information and change all their pricing around and change everything and made them look bad. And we're not talking a huge plumbing business. This wasn't something that they made 5-10 million. This was a guy with 1 or 2 trucks, and he went after another guy with 1 or 2 trucks. So it can happen. And the availability, prevent disruption. If someone is doing something in your machine, slowing you down, you can't work, you can't do whatever it is you do. You can't provide information, you can't access your data, and and also they can hinder, if you have a website or information like that, to stop your customers from getting to the data that they need to get to be able to access what it is you provide to them. So if you wanted to send out an email, or if you do that on a daily or weekly basis, and someone is hindering your email from going out, then your clients can't get that. And that's one of the things that we're trying to assist with. So there's a lot of reasons why we put your limited resources preparing and protecting against cybersecurity attacks. Why are we putting that? Well, they see your business as an easy target. There's a extreme cost. If you're out of business for 3 or 4 days, how much money can you lose? If your customers can't reach you for 3 or 4 days, are they going to go elsewhere? And your reputation is at risk. If your customers can't hear from you for 3 or 4 days, or you tell them that you've been hacked, what do you think they're going to think about you? Everybody's going to blame you. You've made my business unsecure because my data is out there now. So that's one of the things that we have to worry about. This is the type of impact that it can have. And these are the type of threats that are out there. And remember, it sounds like the boogeyman, but there are simple things you can do to protect yourself. So while I'm explaining all these things, I don't want people to be like, oh my God, this is crazy. I wish, this thing is, we could do something better. There are simple things you can do, just like anything else. When you walk in a certain neighborhood or you do certain things in life, you could prepare yourself so you're not at risk or at less risk, put it that way. And we'll go over these. There are phishing attacks, and everyone knows phishing attacks are fake emails. You get an email that says, hey, you've got some bounces in your account. You think it's from Chase or whatever bank you go to, and it turns out it's not. You click a link and you go somewhere, and it either looks like a fake Chase account or it's a site that you get there and it's just a blank sheet, a blank page, and next thing you know, you've infected yourself with a virus. So either they want you to share data, go in, type your credentials in, your account information, and then they steal that, or they're getting you to go there, click the link, go there, and automatically download something to your computer, and you don't realize it. So that's one of the attacks. Ransomware is a form. Ransomware can come multiple ways. It can come through phishing. It can come through direct hacks. But ransomware is, in a sense, they send some type of code to your machine, and then that code locks your machine up and says, if you want it back, pay X amount of money to this, send this money to this account, and we'll open up your machine. There are corporations, police departments, even federal agencies, law enforcement agencies that have been hit with ransomware, and they've paid. Small FBI office literally paid $1 million to hackers. There's been police departments that have paid these things, and that's because they had no plan, or they didn't test the plan to recover in the case of this, and it just didn't work. Whatever they were going to do didn't work, and they had to give over the money, or else they would lose the data and they would be screwed. Imposters, people pretending to be your cousin or someone you don't vaguely remember from the past, and they'll try to get information from you, or get you to look at something, a link, or they'll get you to go to a website to collect data. And then, you have a lot of environmental events, things that are going on, like we just talked about with COVID. There are a lot of things that force people to change their habits and to, in a sense, create opportunities for holes or confusion. People that started having to work from home started getting information thinking it was from their business, saying, hey, here's some information you need to do, your information you need to read so you can do these things to protect yourself. And it was coming from hackers. And the last is the dark web. Now, I'll give a couple of seconds on this. What is the dark web? And I have, and I've went through some of these over here, hacking. So if you look, and so these are imposters that we talked about. Sorry to flip through these, sorry. So what is the dark web? So here's what I have here, we wrote. So the dark web, what you see on the surface is the dark web is anything addressable, www, whatever. That's not the dark web, that's the surface. That's what we see in the world. That's the internet that we see. The internet is larger than that. The internet is, what we see is only a quarter of what the rest of the internet is. The world that, the general world and the public lives in that one quarter of the internet, which is anything that's addressable, wherever you're going, you're whether it's a company or e-commerce, whatever it is. The part that is not addressable, there are different levels to that. The deep web is something that, you can't search on like they say here, the deep web is something that's not searchable by Google. If you can find it on Google, that's usually the surface. Anything, you can't find things on the deep web in Google, and you're definitely not going to find it in the dark web. In the dark web, a lot of times they're using different methodologies to get there. Tor, which is a type of browser that was set up by the US government for countries that were suppressing their people. And they provided this for them so that they can speak to the rest of the world, get information out for activists and things like that. And that's what the criminals started using to hide themselves and to be able to communicate. And they also use other methodologies to discuss and do whatever they do. There's different types of ways they have to talk. But in a sense, the dark web is a lot of companies have the internet that's facing you. Then there's the part of the network that's facing themselves, databases that they use that they don't want on the internet directly. A lot of so a large portion of the dark web isn't nefarious. It's just unaddressable. It's almost like a warehouse district in a city. It's just a lot of companies and buildings, and they're not all nefarious. It's just a place where nefarious things go on, and it's usually a small portion of that 3/4 of the dark web. That is where the nefarious things go on. And that's where, like we said here, you can find, if you know where to look for, if you can, a lot of cybersecurity companies out there, we call them white hatters. They go out into these areas and they search and they sniff, and sniffing is a networking term. It's going out there and looking for specific protocols and things that are communicating, different types of communication, and they literally will break into certain areas or look into certain things, and they find things that have been hacked. They find information that's out there, and then they report it. Or they find weaknesses of software or equipment, and then they report that. And it's usually a lot of companies provide money for that. Microsoft, Google. If you find a weakness, they'll give you money. They call them bounties. They'll give you money for discovering that. And some of the money could be really good. $50,000 for just a bounty for any type of vulnerability. If they don't know about it and you present it to them, you can wind up with $50,000. So that's a lot of them go into the dark web to do that, and in the deep web to do those type of things. And that's where they find the nefarious stuff. So, okay. So one of the things people think is the risk assessment in general, because it's about identifying your weaknesses and identifying and prioritizing what the problems are. So there are 3 attack surfaces out there, and in general, there's the culture, which is your policies, procedure. If you have a business and you don't have a policy and procedure, even if you're a one person or one person operation, you have to have certain rules of what you do. Do you have a computer that is shared as a business with your kids? You shouldn't do that. That's one policy. These are type of rules. If you have a business, your kids should not be on your computer, because they'll go to sites that are targeted to try to get stuff on your computer. That wherever they're going, and they're kids, they're careless. They don't know. They'll click on things. As much as they know about the internet, they don't know about security. So a lot of kids are very savvy about where to go, how to do things. I've seen 5-year-olds, go onto the internet and start typing and going places. Yet they don't understand security. And so your business should be separate from access from anyone else. So these are the type of rules, and the more people you have in your business, the more rules and types of policies and procedures that you should have, and then accountability. What happens when they break that rule? What is the consequence? And so so if you have no policy or procedure or accountability, you're vulnerable. The human person, the the human itself, the person itself, we're susceptible to making mistakes. If they're not aware, like we just said, kids aren't aware. If the adult isn't aware, if they're not trained properly, if some people have, they have an ulterior motive, maybe they're upset, maybe, you promised them you would bring them to $20 an hour and you didn't do it because multiple reasons, and they don't understand that. They may be disgruntled for different reasons, or they felt slighted, or they just apathetic. You have people, they just don't care, and they just go through life. I really don't care, whatever, and they're just apathetic, and they live carelessly. So that type of human could be detrimental to your security. And then the technology itself is only 1/3 of the issue. Actually 1/4 of it. The rest of it is going to be the human and the culture. If you have no rules, then there's a problem. If the people aren't trained, or the people have nefarious reasons, or they're apathetic, you have a problem. Those two become your major issues within a business. The technology itself, meaning the computer and what you do and what you protect. If I gave you, and you spent $1 million on all your security, one person who puts in a wrong password, or a bad, very low level type password, can create problems in your business. And then if you don't have a mechanism to monitor that, and to identify that happened, and then penalize the person or retrain the person, then it's going to continue happening, and they're going to be a problem. So this is why this is important. These three, this attack surface, as we say, and that's where they're going to come in. This is how they're going to try to come in, using these things. And then after that is the risk management of going through this, the element of risk, the threats, vulnerability. That gets into a more technical, deeper dive on why they would come for you, the level of security you have versus how much you need to work. There are different methodologies to decide that. And then what happens on the impact of these things, how does it affect me, is if I include all the security, my people may not be as productive as they were before. So then you have to bring down your security a little so that they can be more productive. But this goes into a more technical aspect of that risk. And it really gets into in-depth. What are you protecting? The type of data? Are you just protecting, articles that you have, or are you protecting business data? And your customer data. And it goes into that, identifying what you have. This goes into it, identifying. So once you understand what you have in your business, then you can decide the type of security and where it's going to be. And so we go into the different ways of doing this through worksheets, and how to assess this. Let me go past this. Okay. And then we utilize, this is one of the ways we utilize NIST. And like I said, the National Institute of Standard and Technology, it is a federal government agency. They provide the standard for everyone. And so we use their framework to go to try to resolve this and how they go about it. And so you identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And so they go through all this, and this is the framework we would utilize to help you solve the problems and that. And then there's simpler ways. This is a real technical overview, but I can explain each of these individually. So you can develop, this is how you go out and identify your organization, understand the problems, the risk, and everything. And then from there, you can, figure out, these are the examples. And then there are ways, then you go about trying to protect yourself and the different safeguards, and detecting, identifying the occurrences. So detecting is when an incident happens, how quick do you know about it? Some people get hacked, they may not know about it for days. How quick can you know about it? You're trying to get that lead time as quick as possible to the incident. And so that what this is doing, this is what this is about. And you can actually have software that does that for you. And a lot of this is not expensive. You can find software out there that can do a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, you know, $100 a year, you know, 120 a year. It's not a lot of money, especially if you're running a business. It's worth the investment. And then how to respond, and then obviously how to recover if something were to go wrong. What do you do? What's in place? And a lot of these plans are in place on how do you go about recovering anything that was done? How do you explain it to people? You know, how do you get back to working? Let's just say it's not a Ferris, COVID. Okay, how do you explain to people that we're moving or we're going to be shut down for a couple of days? How do you explain to them, you know, the level of service they're going to get and a reduced level? You know, if you're just thinking COVID, how did people respond to that? The people that responded to that better to these type of events did better in a sense with their customers. They didn't lose a lot of them. Customers became more understanding when you explained to them and you were more forthcoming with them. Some businesses just went dead silent and people were like, what happened? I didn't talk with you for 5 days, and they went elsewhere. And so this is a way to explain all that and how to go about recovering from incidents like that. And then this is another matrix on that. So now we get to the meat and potato of all this. What do you do right now? There's 11 steps to help you protect yourself online today. You know, when you leave, you could actually, somebody could take a picture of this if you want, screenshot it, whatever you want. Like I said, you can download the presentation if you want, but this is something that you can start today and you start working on your security. Don't open up emails from strangers. If you don't know who it is or it looks weird, a lot of times you'll get something from Netflix or your bank, and when you look at you see the name, it'll say Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, whoever. But when you look next to it at the domain name, the email address, it'll be a weird email address, and it won't be at wellsfargo.com. It'll be Wells Fargo INT or something totally different, or Netflix.net or whatever it is. If it doesn't look right, don't click on anything. If you think that email is relevant, then what you do is you just go there yourself. Don't click on anything. Log into your Netflix and see if there's an alert or a notice. They'll tell you, it'll be there. Your bank, same thing. If that email is relevant, when you go in there, it'll let you know that there's some type of notice or message in there that'll tell you that that information is relevant. So don't click on anything you don't know. If it's somebody you don't know, if hey, I'm your cousin, you never heard of this cousin, don't open the email. Make sure your devices are up to date. All the tablets, the cell phones, your computers, they all have a means to update themselves. They're patching. So make sure that you're letting them. Sometimes there are patches that are for the hardware. Sometimes there are patches for the operating, the actual individual applications. So if you ever see your phone and it's updating all the different applications, all your different apps are being updated, that's what that's doing. Sometimes you'll see something that's updating just your iPhone, or it's anything involving that, it may be updating, or your Android. With computers, you have your Windows, your operating system, you have your drivers, and then you also have your applications. So those things need to be patched and updated on a regular basis. That's one of you don't know how many times someone is hacked and you look at it and they're out of date by 4 months. And we're talking major corporations, or 6 months. They've not patched or updated anything. So understand that when a company puts out that we're updating something because we found a problem, they usually send out, there's a log attached to that. The hackers read those logs, so they know that the previous software version of that software has all these holes because the company just told them. We fixed the holes on this new version 2, version 1 has all these holes, so we fixed it. So they read these, and then they go out and they try to use those holes, and they try to hack into different corporations or do different things to get you to click on a link so that they know you may be vulnerable since you're not up to date. Make sure you have firewall, antivirus, VPN. There are a ton. I don't know how many times you go to somebody's computer, you look at their antivirus and it says it's expired, or they never bought the service. Their firewall's off. They don't have VPN. VPN is virtual private network. A lot of people, they see commercials, and then it doesn't protect you completely from the internet. What the VPN is a point-to-point connection. It's allowing from you to another box out there, which is the VPN company. It's a tunnel. It's an encrypted tunnel. And then on the other end of their site, they let you go to the internet. So if anybody were to monitor you, it would, the IP address and everything will come back to that box on their side. So anything that happens on their end. So when you surf, all the information is being told of that box. So when if anyone is scanning, anyone is doing anything, it protects you. It protects you from ads. It protects you from a lot of things if you enable those features. Some of those features may not be on automatically, but that's what a VPN does. A lot of people use it so that they can get like Netflix or other services from other countries. You know, there may be a movie that's not available in the United States. They put on a VPN and they make sure that it's a Europe box that they connect to, and that now they can get that movie that they were looking for. But as business, you can utilize that for different reasons and protect yourself when you're surfing, so that if you don't have a VPN, also your internet company can read your emails if you don't have a VPN. They can watch what you do, and they could sell that data to other companies for advertisement. So your ISP, your Verizon or whoever you go, Comcast, can see that data. If you have a VPN, they can't see your data. Okay. Next one would be what's a password manager? Password manager has all of your passwords that you utilize. A lot of people create passwords that they know, Poopsie 1234. They put their kid's name, they put their kid's birthday, they put their aunt, they put all these things, and they forget it, or it's something very simple. Every 6 months, there's a study done on all the different types of breaches and hacks, and what they do is collect all the passwords, and literally the passwords that have been breached and hacked over the last 10 years have pretty much been the same passwords. They're relatively few changes here and there. I think 80 to 90% of the passwords that were utilized 10 years ago, like literally the word password 1234, 12345. I think password 12345 is number one right now. That's the number one password used on the internet. And we're talking millions, hundreds of millions. I think they did 500 something million people with the last study, and password 12345 was number one. And actually somebody used the Portuguese word for password, which I can't think of it off the top of my head. And they were using the same iterations of it. They used the Portuguese word for password. That keep moved up to number 9. So password managers will collect all your passwords. You can add them in there every time you go to a site. You add it in, and you keep track of it. The purpose of having the password manager is to make sure you utilize better passwords. And one of the things, and I have it here somewhere, or actually it's on the line, is what they call passphrases. One, I went to talking to a client, her daughter came up with one, which I thought was funny, and it actually is a long password. The cow jumped over the moon is a passphrase, and you can add numbers and dates to if you wanted, but you want to have 6 words. A passphrase are words. that you put together that don't have to be a sentence. They don't have to be a regular sentence. They could just be 6 words minimum that have no relation to each other. They don't have to be a real sentence. And you can go from there. If you want, you can use a Bible passage. You can use a passage from a book. You can put together words that different things that you have that you know about. You can put them together and make a password. There are password managers that will give you passphrases and give you that as a password so that you can enter it and never use passwords. Never use the same password multiple times. Statistically, people who use passwords at work use the same passwords at home. So when there's a breach and that information is stolen and it shows all the username and passwords, so if Jane Brown used whatever password, Poopsie1234 at work and we found out about it, what they usually do, will go to the internet, Jane Brown, and go to Chase, go to all the different bank accounts and, Citicorp. They'll go to every single one of them, Jane Brown, and they'll try various types of Jane Brown in various ways and use the same password to see if they get in. So they'll go around and use that and try to break in utilizing those passwords in other means. So if they find a username and password, best assured that they're going to try it everywhere they can. And they have software that does it. Once they get a name and a password, they actually have software and it literally will check all the different counts within a second. They'll hit a button and it'll go through all of them and check. That it's literally software that's been created for them. And that's where the strong passphrases is as a strong password. Multi-factor authentication is another security layer that we use, which is you get the text back, or you get the code that you have to enter, you use the authentication code of Google or one of the other ones where it has a random code and you put the code in. Those are types of multi-factor authentication. You get an email, you get a text, you may get a call. Those are the types that you want to make sure set up on all your accounts. And then number 6 is similar to the first one. Don't click on strange looking links. And number 7 is avoid using unsecure public Wi-Fi. People go to the airports, McDonald's, wherever, and they may use their Wi-Fi there. If it's dangerous to do unless you're protected with a VPN and your firewall and things like that. It is very dangerous, and that is the number one place that people look to go after young kids. When people are targeting kids, that is the number one place that they go to. They go to public places. They'll go to libraries. They'll go to McDonald's. They'll go to any place that kids congregate. And when I mean kids, teenagers, preschoolers, wherever they go, these people will be nearby, and they have the equipment set up that they're actually collecting data. They pretend, whatever that location is, that public place is, and they have their own Wi-Fi, they'll put up a number 2. So you'll see, McDonald's 1 Wi-Fi, and then out of nowhere, you'll see a McDonald's 2. And that has nothing to do with McDonald's. They just named it the same thing as whatever's there with a number 2. And most kids don't know. They'll just click on it and they'll think they're getting to the internet. And that's what they call a man in the middle attack, that this person just became the man in the middle. And all that data that's coming through is actually sifting through their equipment before it goes out to the internet. And they could sit there for hours doing this and collect tons of data on kids, collect habits, collect information. They'll know which kids are mad at each other, and they can use that against them. Which kids, whatever the drama is for the week, they'll know it because they can read the email and the text. So that is the number one thing that if anything about kids, that's the one thing you should protect them with, is make sure they have a VPN on their phones, on their tablets, and on any other devices that they go out to the world with. Back up your data. Make sure you're backing up all your data. using backup software. Putting stuff on Dropbox is not backup unless you use their backup utility, which stores it differently. And even then, a real backup will actually grab the data on your machine, which they call system data, which will allow you to restore your whole machine if you need to. So there are different backup software you can get that are on the cloud, or you can get a device that will back it up. And then there's a hybrid approach, something local and something. And if you have a business, you should be backing up your stuff every week, daily and weekly. They have things that change daily, and at the end of the week, it just backs up everything again. Be smart about your financial data. If you're going to banks, or if you're going somewhere which is your financial place, that's one way to look to see if there's something fishy. What we call phishing is if it doesn't have an HTTPS, you should not go there. Any site that does not have HTTPS, if you look on any website now that is protected, you will see HTTPS before the www. If it does not have that, don't go in there. Don't put any information in. It doesn't matter. And it has happened to major companies in different banks where that certificate can expire and they don't know about it. And if it happens to your bank, call up your bank and let them know. Hey, I just went to your site and I just saw that your HTTPS wasn't working. They may not know that sometimes, and it's happened before. Happened to Microsoft on one of their Outlook years ago. And so the next thing is educate your family, like we just talked about with your kids in open public places. Be careful with their data. Be careful what they tell their friends. Make sure that they're not sharing passwords with friends. Anything you're learning should be shared with kids. Are targeted, elderly are targeted. Share with your mother, your grandmother, whoever it is. If they're elderly, they are targeted. People, my mother has a computer. I think she uses it once every month, if that. And that means her computer could be utilized to attack others and she'd never know about it. No one would know about it. It could be a botnet right now. The only reason it's not is because I look into it all the time. And avoid sharing personal information with anyone that you don't know, or even people. Netflix is not going to call you to ask you for your personal information. Your bank usually won't call you, or they actually don't call people and ask for personal information. And so be careful what information you share. And that's one of the biggest things that people get caught up with. There is something called social hacking, where they're not trying to hack into your network through your computer. All they're doing is calling up and gaining your confidence and getting information from you. You think that there's someone who they're not. You think that maybe they're from the cable company, or they're from that company you dealt with last week, and they're not. And they're just there to get as much information from you as possible, and to try to get around your security, figure out passwords, things like that, to get you to run something, to give them access. So be careful who you're talking to, and don't share information. And so those are the 11 steps that I've given, and I've got a few other couple of little simple ones, which I think are and I know my wife had mentioned, somebody wanted to know, turn off your geotagging on your phones. That's another thing. Geotagging is when you take a picture, if you have it set on your phone, Android or iPhone, it is a little thing where it actually gets the longitude, latitude of that photo where you took the picture at, and that information is there. And if I go on the internet, you took that picture and it's on the internet, I literally could pull down that picture and look at your geotag and longitude and latitude and find out exactly when you took that picture and where. And it'll show me on a map on on Google. You could turn all those things off on your iPhone or your Android, and you could turn off the Google Map tracking. There's on the presentation, the links are there, but if you want to search for it, you can actually use these terms, and you can search for it, and it'll give you the steps on how to turn it off. And there's videos out there, but on the presentation, there's an actual link where you can go to turn off both of these. that's something that we recommend you do, so that Google, every time you go into Google and search something or doing something, Google, if you have the location tracking on, every time it logs in, it will say, hey, I'm here. It'll log where you've been. So all throughout the day, every time it logs in, it's almost like a map of where you're going and where you've been throughout the day. So you could turn all that off. And for kids, some parents may want it on, but you may want to, if that's the case, then you want to protect that and make sure that there's passwords and all this other stuff but remember, Google sells this data. So, it's like, it also with the with the Google tracking, there are times you'll get a text because you pass by McDonald's or you pass by something. If you frequent an area and all of a sudden you're getting a text by it, that's because they're using their location to sell that data to someone else. So that's pretty much it. And there's other little links in here and things that we talk about. I can open it up to you guys to ask any questions. Anyone has a question, we can start with that.
Okay, friends. Oh, thank you so much, Brother Melendez. Oh my goodness, this is amazing information. Listen, I went on my phone and I immediately went to Google and in my settings, and it says locations, and I selected never.
Exactly.
Will that turn off Google tracking, Brother Seth?
Yes, well,
you
have
might
to make
need
sure.
it though for GPS though. I think you need to turn it back on for GPS. If
No,
you
there's a difference.
driving.
No, there's difference. Your
Okay.
Google location data, meaning your location where you want to find out for GPS, is different than location tracking.
Mm-hmm.
So location is, they provide you the ability to use their GPS, but there's a tracking that goes behind it. You can go into the Google settings and turn that off so that they don't track what you do.
Right.
And if you go in there and look at it, and if you ever go in there and look at it, the first time I looked at it, which was years ago, I was shocked how much data it had. It literally, when I was traveling the country, literally showed me zooming across the country in a plane. You actually saw the data, because every time my phone pinged, it would show I'm in the air and it was flying cross country.
That's incredible. So those of you on the platform who have questions for Brother Melendez, if you'd raise your virtual hand, we can take you so we're not talking over each other, and so we can do this in order. Once again, Brother Melendez, I want to say thank you so much. In the chat, oh boy, the chat was like blowing up. Sister Monique says, thanks a million, Brother Melendez.
Thank you. I felt I was babbling a little, but excuse me. I just wanted to get all that information out.
Not at all. We have such a short window of time, and there's just so much information. I've been taking notes. I already have a page of notes. All right. So Sister Pauline.
Anyone have any questions?
Yes, Sister Pauline. Sister Pauline, go ahead, please.
Yes, yes, thank you, Seth. Such wonderful and very good information that you have shared with us. But I have a question, because I've often been told that your Apple phone and your Mac, your MacBook, they're pretty much safe. So my question is, do you need like a virus protection for your phone and your MacBook when you have an Apple?
Well, MacBooks and any of the Apple products work a little differently. They have their own version of an antivirus and things like that. They don't use the standard ones that are on the Windows products. So they have a version of that will lock it down and protect it and clean it. A lot of it's already integrated, so you don't have to purchase a separate product. But to get a VPN and to get other things like that, a firewall. I know Google, like my Google phone comes with a firewall. If I'm mistaken, I think T-Mobile has their own VPN on their phones. So, but remember, it's theirs. If it's theirs, they have access to the data.
Right.
So anything that's protected by them, remember, then they have access to it. And so you should look into getting whatever, if it's a business, or look into the features, because a lot of times people use the basic feature and they don't realize there's a step above. They can go one step more, or maybe advance. It's up to you how far you want to go with it. just look into it with the Apple products, how far and how much more. You may have something there, but it's set at the lowest setting.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
And just look into that. But there are products for them that you can download and purchase and download that will give you better security.
Protection.
Seth, can you recommend some of those products that you use? I put a couple of things in the chat, like for Password Manager, RoboForm, I use Keeper. Is there any?
1Pass. But when it comes to like Norton's has a great product. It's funny because for a long time I hated Norton's, and recently someone was working with Norton's and I was working with them and I was actually impressed. Norton's has a Norton's 360 product, which comes with firewall, which comes with a ton of other antivirus. It comes with a VPN. For that same price, it's like, and some of the coupons out there that you can find, it was like $90 for the year. And it's up to 5 devices or 8 devices. So you can literally work on, and then they actually have a one for Android phones. So like it's an app that you can protect Android phones with it. So they had a great product for that. Norton's is one of them. There are tons out there. Symantec has them. I think Symantec is Norton. Then there's other products out there that they have that will, we use 1Pass for password management, RoboForm. And remember, a lot of these things, when you go to the website, one of the things I love is I don't have to remember them. I don't have to do anything. You go to a website, there's a login, you hit a button, it actually logs it in for you, and you're done. So you never have to actually type something in. And there literally are viruses out there and malware that connect into your machine that actually record what you type. And it collects that data. So if you're just clicking a button and it's inputting that information, they'll never get any of the passwords that you use. So
That's a good. And so really quickly, because you had just mentioned the cell phone and we have other people that have their hand raised.
Yes.
Can people actually, or these hackers, attack get your contacts in terms of your cell phone? Can they access your contacts from there?
Yes. And your devices are, when it comes to hacking, your devices are pretty much the same. It doesn't matter the operating system, whatever software, whether it's Android, if they can get into them, they'll collect whatever data is there. And they can actually, like anything else, they can put software there you don't even realize, and it's collecting more data.
Well, actually, what I meant by that question was, can someone hack into your phone because I'm in your contacts? And no, can someone go in your phone and because I'm listed as one of your contacts, hack me? That's what my question was.
Yes, if you can get a text from me tomorrow, somebody hacks my phone, that you get a text or you get an email. You go, oh, that's Seth. Click. Now you've infected. I said, oh, here's that picture. Here's the picture. And sometimes you'll get an email. I got an email recently that said, hey, here's that picture that your wife took. And all of a sudden, took a bus. Like it's like a gathering or something. I'm like, we haven't been anywhere with anybody. So what do I picture that with my wife? I didn't click it. I laughed at it and deleted it. But you may get it, in that sense, you may not think about it. And I've been caught for it. We had a joke where I was ostracized for about a week and laughed at because I received an email internally when I worked at a company and I clicked on it because it said, oh, here's the report. I clicked on it and I wound up infected and literally sent out thousands of emails before the system turned me off.
Wow.
And so I got chided for a whole week. People were laughing at me, and they were busting my child. Oh, don't open anything he sends, so it happens to us all. You're not paying attention and you click on something and it happens. So yes, to answer your question, I can send you something that'll get you hacked.
LGK40 has been waiting patiently. You may go ahead with your question.
That's
their question? They can ask it. I don't know where they're at.
Yes.
Good evening. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Where I got on late, is it possible for me to get this information?
Yes, we are sharing the presentation out. It's actually 50 pages. So it's a lot more in depth. I didn't want to go through 50 pages, but there's a lot of information, and on the bottom there are actually links. So yes, we can share that out. Michelle will share that out if your name's already, or Vanessa
Yeah.
can share it out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Send me, please, you must put your email address in the chat. You can chat me directly, Michelle Melendez. If you're not part of the GMM group, you must put your information in the chat.
Okay, thank
Sister
you.
Lynn, you may go ahead.
Yeah, what about AVG as a virus protection software to use?
Yeah, it's better. The way everything is working, and you have to understand, antivirus is it's a first step. A lot of people are moving on to what they call endpoint protection, but antivirus is a first step. But understand the limitations of it. If a new hack comes out tomorrow, it does not know about it, and if you get it, it won't protect you. It's a very defensive thing. It waits. The antivirus gets a script or an update that tells it this is the new virus and how to detect it. So it does not know anything new. So anything that's created today, it won't know about. So once it's discovered tomorrow, then that information gets shared and it's created. But it is better than nothing. I equate antivirus to the lock on your door. Technically, I can kick your door in 2 seconds, but everyone still has one a lock on your door. It is the first step in security. So it is best to have one. And that's why we said, make sure it's up to date. Not only is the antivirus signatures that are in there need to be up to date, the actual software itself needs to be up to date. So if you have one and it hasn't been updated in 2 weeks, you're making it worse for yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Brother Melendez, I don't see any more raised hands. There were some questions in the chat, but there's one thing that's interesting. Sister Angela Brown asked, would you be able to show us on Google where to go to turn off the tracking? So would you be able to share your screen and do that step by step to show us how? It is now 8:35. And so maybe, if we got nothing else, we got this hands-on piece, how to actually go and turn off Google tracking.
And hopefully it can transfer to our phones, that we can follow that same kind of direction to get it off our phone. I went into Google on my phone and I couldn't find it.
Okay.
Veronica, you had a question about the dark web, right?
Oh, I'm scrolling back. I'm first of all, I want to thank you for explaining that to me, because I always wanted to have a more speaking knowledge of what the dark web is. I'm not saying I do, but at least you explained it to me, because I really thought it was like a sci-fi term.
The way they use it is, but remember, there's only a small portion of the dark web that is the nefarious end of it. It's only a small portion. So
yeah, I know. Oh, I know what it was. I see my question now. So I'm one of those people that put something over the camera portion of all of my devices unless I'm actively using it. Is that what they say accesses your cameras when you're not there, and then sells it for pornography or whatever?
Yeah, a lot of times they access cameras for specific things. Like I said, they target people. I know that there was a level of a bunch of cameras that were targeted because they were because they were part of school kids. So they were actually trying to get the young girls' cameras and get that stuff. So they went after the whole school. And they'll go after if they know it's a woman, things like that. But yes, that is one way to protect yourself within a Windows device. It may be a couple of steps, but if you go in and turn off the device, I do it a lot. I can show you real quick. Let me show you. Let me open up this window here and I'll show you. Where's my desktop?
Thank you everyone for hanging on there. It's 8:38 and we still have quite a few people on the line. So thank you for that.
Yes, thanks for saying that, Sister Melendez. Usually we end within to allow folks, as we know it's a work week, but this is amazing information. And I think we're scheduled. So those of you who need to leave, of course, go ahead. But thank you, Brother Melendez.
Okay. Yeah, so if you go into if you right click on your start menu and go to devices, a device manager on Windows, you'll see if I have it right here. I turn off I have a camera on the laptop, and then I have a separate camera that's connected, the one that you're seeing me through, but the camera on the actual laptop is turned off. I actually shut it down there so that they can't, unless they can get access to my device, they have to turn it on in the devices. So this is a way so if you go into your, like I said, right click on your start and go to device manager, you'll see this window open up, and then you'll just go up to where it says cameras, and then you just disable it. And then when you want to use it, you just enable it. But this one I don't use, so I turned it off. So remember, each of these cameras also have an audio. So if the camera's on, like even if you cover it, the actual microphone on there is still on. So if you disable the camera itself, the microphone is off. Did that answer your question?
How about going on to your actual, well, can you do it from here? Going on to your phone, actually doing it?
Going on to where?
With your phone, your device?
I can't do it here. My phone, with the phones, it's hard to turn off the device, but you can.
What about that location thing you were talking about?
Yeah, I can do that right now. Give me one. Let me pull that
on the
up
phone
so I could show you. So it's put it up. It's been a while since I've been there, so excuse me. So go open up Google Maps. Let me share that out for you so you can see it. Google Maps. Here we go. Okay. Give me 1 second.
Sister Yolanda, I'm agreeing with you that this is eye-opening and some crazy information, the amount of things that they can do just using our technology, our devices. Amazing.
So I happen to be logged in with my business. So anyway, so if you go and you tap up here on your when you go into Google Maps, and you'll see up here, you'll tap into your name, the little icon. Hold on, I'm not seeing that. It's been a while since I went into mine, so excuse me.
The one that's under location sharing, I'm on my phone.
No. You got
location sharing, turn off that.
No. You have to actually go into Google Maps itself.
I thought I wasn't. I am in Google Maps.
No, your location sharing is the device. It's what's on your machine itself. If you
so I'm on my cell phone.
Right.
And I went to Google Maps on my cell phone.
Okay, so then on the top right, it should be your profile picture in the top right.
So I clicked on that, and under that,
you should see your data in Maps.
Your data in Maps, I do see it.
There you go. And then see and delete activities. And then at the bottom of it, hit the menu bottom at the top right, and then you select.
Wait, slow down for a second. So turn the thing that says location history on, just turn that off, or click on the see and delete activity. Which one?
Well, you could, if you want to see and delete it, you can. Other than that, just delete it all, and then just tell it to turn it off.
Okay. And then do I have to do another step there or no?
Nope. Once you
after I turn it off,
it should be done.
Okay.
But how will that affect you when you're trying to use your GPS?
It won't change that. That part it won't, because when you turn it on, you'll still be able to use it, but it just doesn't track what you do. That's the difference.
Okay. Did that? Oh, okay. Got it.
See, so location history on mine, it's empty because I keep mine off at all times. See, location history. So it doesn't, are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so it's all off there, so there is no information to gather.
So can I ask you a question if you don't mind?
Sure, go ahead.
So I'm a real estate agent, and I kind of like want like my husband or my family to know where I am. And I kind of have, I guess, and I'm not very technical here, so I kind of have my location, showing where I am at all times. So will that affect that, do you think?
No, usually that is working actively. That's not a tracking history. It's not something in the past. What you're looking for is something, I know there's a few software out there and a few apps, find my location, things like that.
Right.
As long as your location service is on, it should be able to find you immediately. Like I have mine here. If you turn on remember, location is different from location history. Your location is turning on the ability for GPS and all this other location information that you're getting from Google. So be able to figure out on a map, things of where you're coming from, where you're going to. Now, if I went into Google Maps right now and decided I wanted to go somewhere, I can do that without a problem, but it won't keep track of any of this stuff. So if I were to create a map and then use that map, it won't track any of that. What you're talking about is being able to find my location or figure out where you're at. If your husband wants to know where you're at, as long as that location is on, he can find out where you're at that moment.
Got it. Very good. Thank you.
So Seth, there was a question in the chat, and it's from Sister Brown. She asked, so on the Windows, does turning off the camera disable the camera on Zoom when you go on a Zoom meeting?
Right. If you disable the camera, yes, it will disable the camera. But like I said, anytime you get ready to use Zoom, you just turn it, you enable it again, and then you'll be able to use it and you won't have a problem. So I happen to have a camera that I don't use that I turned off. The camera that I do have on here, when I finish this Zoom meeting, a lot of times I'll turn it off. I'll go into the devices and disable it. So it's not just off, it's just not enabled, it's not working. So if someone were to run us some type of virus and they're looking for cameras, they won't find it.
Excuse me, Seth, before you leave the Google page, I am on my phone and I paused the location history. Do I need to pause the web and app activity as well?
That's up to you, because it keeps track of that. That's up to you. So that information, like we just saw in mine, is up to you. There's certain things I am cool with keeping. Like you said, web activity and YouTube. I like my YouTube history. I like to go back if I'm watching something. So that's just me. And web activity, and like when you type into Google something, that information is there. If I type something in, it's already there. So I don't mind that data. I don't really care if they keep that. That's up to you. But the location stuff is the most sensitive.
Okay.
So that's the reason I do that. For me, it's just being lazy when it comes to Google YouTube history and web activity and apps. I don't really care if they got that. It's them knowing where I'm at and somebody being able to figure that out. That's the part that I don't like.
Thank you.
So Seth, I just want to elaborate, or I want to, as we wind down, I just want to expand on utilizing or the safety measures that you've given us cyber threats, and in terms of ensuring that our data, the steps that we can ensure that our data is safe. So I know that you're not saying, right, because right now we're in 2021 and social media and utilizing technology, email, et cetera, that's what we do right now, right? And so we have a business like WareGeeks is a business, social media maybe is a step in order to, you know, garner some business. Can you just share with everyone that you're not saying not to go on social media? You're not saying not to utilize technology.
Yeah, it's the social media is one aspect of marketing. You know, when you look at marketing in general in this day and age, it's just one aspect of it. It's just the modern day newspaper. It's the modern day television. It's the modern day, newspaper, the old newspapers that they used to have. It's just it's just a new form of distribution of information. So as long as you're practicing, you have safe practices, you have these procedures in place, you're doing what you need to do, then social media is pretty safe. As long as you're not going out there doing something reckless. And remember, if you have a network where you can go out and schmooze and gain new customers, then use that. It doesn't matter. If you're an old school person and you'd rather send letters, go right ahead if it works for you. But generally, most businesses survive today by using social media and their various forms. You can, use your Facebook, Twitters, whatever, or you can get on Yelp, or you can get on Google My Business. There are multiple places to get on. You don't just have to be stuck with Facebook and Twitter and those. There are multiple ways to go about leveraging social media, but you don't have to be afraid of any of them. If you're following certain practices, make sure your VPN is on, make sure everything's up to date. If you do these things, you're less vulnerable. Doesn't mean you can't happen to you, but then if you have a plan of what happens when this goes on. Oh, and I mentioned that earlier. If you do find out that your information has been breached, I know some of the banks are starting to give you that information along with their service. Some of the antivirus are giving you that. They call it dark web protection, where your email and your family's email addresses are put in there. And if there's a breach, you get an email that says, hey, your information came up on a new breach. It gives you general information. What you're doing is you go in and you look for that password and that username, make sure that you've not used that password anywhere else, and then you change it. So that's one of the reasons why if you have a password manager, you'll be able to track that. You'll be able to go in and say, okay, I only have this password in one location. Look, I've done it. I say that's the best practice. I've done it, but I went and changed all the core stuff. All my most important, I went and made sure they're all unique. There's still passwords out there that are shared. If you go into my password manager, it'll tell me I'm failing on certain areas because I have multiple passwords that are old and places that I'll never use again. But if one of those names, those passwords come up, I'll go change it on all those accounts and make them all unique. But I make sure my core is protected. So social media, that's one of the things I wanted to share separate from the whole social media question.
Great, thank you for that. And Anna Minerva, you had a question?
Hi, thanks for all of this information. This is really great. I had two questions. One was, when you get those emails from companies that want you to just click on something, do you think it makes sense to whitelist the banks or whatever companies that you do have business with? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you can blacklist or whitelist. That's one way. But then what happens is you're going to get it happens to me a lot. Sometimes, things that I'm expecting or things that I, regularly want, I'll get it automatically winds up in my junk. And so you have to go through your junk every so often and make sure you're making sure that it's not listed as blocked. You know what I mean? So you'll have to do some maintenance every so often. But yeah, that is a good idea. You can block a lot of things or whitelist whatever you want. Some software allows you to whitelist, or you can just go the other way and just like I can go in my email, right click on something and say, block. From now on, it's blocked or it's junk, and then it automatically junks it, and I'll never receive that email from that place again. There is a software that I use, and my wife, I've been trying to get her to use it, that I use. It's called Maelstrom, Mailstrom, and it's like $6 a month, and it will clean all of your junk, unregister you from any type of service or spam you're getting. If you're getting emails from, Macy's or wherever, you can go in and it'll unregister, unsubscribe you to those lists. And it's a great thing of cleaning your emails. Every time I go in it, I'll dump 10,000, 15,000 emails.
Thanks. And just one more question at the risk of sounding like I'm going to become a hacker. How do you get to the dark web?
There are multiple ways to get to the dark web, but put it this way, most people don't know how to, if you don't know how to work with different software like Tor, or if you don't know how to anonymize yourself where you're able to get to these services, because a lot of these underground sites or underground places, they do security on you. They do checks on you. So if you're coming in and they can determine certain things about you, they won't let you in. You won't get access.
Oh, okay.
So it's not that easy. You can't trip over it, put it that way.
Oh, okay.
It's not like, I remember one guy was like, I'm on the dark web. And I laughed. I was like, dude, you didn't trip over the dark web. Because there are sites that are illicit. There are sites that, people get, they'll get videos or they'll get TV shows, games, and they're like, oh, that's dark web. No, that's not dark web.
All right. Thank you.
2 more questions. Veronica Ann?
My question was, and I hope I didn't lose it just that quickly. Lord have mercy. I think I just had a senior moment.
What do you think about it?
That's making me, I know what it is. Okay, so my question is, you mentioned, you and or your wife, or both of you mentioned, what is it called? It is called the place that keeps all your passwords. Password manager or something.
Right.
Manager.
So I am terribly scared of using something like that because it just takes one smart cookie and they're gonna reach the Fort Knox. No,
well, anything is hackable. But here's the thing with malware, with password managers, they have multiple layers of encryption. It is like all of the online storage, the cloud storages have it. OneDrive, all of them come with password managers now, and all of them have what they call vaults. And these things are protected, like really protected. It's encrypted. No one has the password. No one can see what's in it. You're the only one with the password. So if you lose the password to your password manager, that account is gone. So there's no way to hack it. There's no way to break in. They're not going to help you. You're done. So we always say, come up with if you want, come up with a password, a really long password, put it on a sticky note and keep it there, or, remember it, whatever it is, you can hide it somewhere. But my thing is have one long password. And then from there, so the odds of them breaking in, and at one point there was some issues where people were like, oh, these things are vulnerable. But that was rectified, and that was something very local, meaning that it stored it in memory in open text. At one point, some of the password managers were keeping the actual passwords to open it in open text locally in memory. And people were like, wait a minute, if I got access to your computer while it's on, with you not noticing, I could crack in. So it was just like, it needed a whole bunch of hurdles for them to get into your machine and get this password manager, the password stored in your memory. But that has been rectified. So a lot of the vulnerabilities of password managers have been fixed. And remember, it syncs to the internet. So not only is it local, it syncs to a repository that they can't see. You have the only access. When you set up your account, that account is the only account that can connect to it and see what's in there. They can't even see what's in there.
Thank you for that answer, Brother Melendez. Sister Veronica, just a moment, please.
Okay.
For time check, it's 3 minutes to 9. Our meetings generally go the latest an hour and a half. Brother Melendez, this information is so well needed that we still have people waiting to ask questions. So I'm going to ask the last 3 persons to answer their questions, and we may have to talk behind the scenes, Brother Melendez, to see if we can bring you back for a part 2. This is part of the Education Collaborative's bi-monthly meeting, and our meeting generally lasts for about an hour or so. So we do appreciate you guys coming on, and we will definitely, if Brother Melendez's schedule will allow him, invite him back to a part 2. So Dimples, Clark, you're next, and then Galaxy S10. And that gentleman that was on, was it Steve? Steve, yes, we'd love to answer your question. Please make it brief. Sister Dimples.
Thank you so very much. So Seth, I would like to find out, I know you mentioned that if someone hacks your phone, you know, they could get into your contacts and maybe send out messages and so forth. Yesterday, I was speaking with a friend of mine, and he noticed that whilst he was talking, his phone, as if somebody was just going through his contacts, or just there was action going on his phone. Could it possibly be hacked? What other subtle ways can you know that your phone was hacked, and what can you do to protect?
I would assume if he's seeing things happening on his phone and he's not doing it, I would assume that, and remember, and there are a lot of software out there that spouses can get that put on your computer if they assume you might be doing something. So that's not a hack, but there are software out there that will do that. So there are different types of software that a spouse can put on your computer to track what you do and collect data and things like that. So that could be his issue. But if anything, if he sees action going on his computer, on his phone, go to airplane mode and start cleaning things up and figure it out from there. But I would assume he's already been hacked. There's a virus or something on his machine.
Okay, because he went into a repair store and he feels like they did something to his phone in the repair store.
Wouldn't surprise me. I've seen it happen. There have been people who work for these companies that have stolen pictures from women or put things on their computer to track them where they go home. If I know of a case that happened out in California, a guy put something on her computer, on her phone, and tracked her back to the house and raped and killed her. So.
Okay. Thanks much.
He worked at Apple.
Galaxy S10, you're next. You may ask your question.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you so very much for your invaluable information. Okay, the same. It says sound silly. The Google. I have my Galaxy S, the next 10. Android.
Probably Android.
Android, yes.
Android.
And I was trying to go over what you were talking about with Google, and I just couldn't find it on my Galaxy, on my phone.
Right. It's not on the Galaxy itself. It's on the Google page. If you go to Google Maps, that's where you'll find it. So you're going to go to, you're going to open up your browser and go to Google Maps. And then from there, you'll follow the steps. Like I said, this presentation is available and the link for that is there. So the actual document to follow. So there's a step-by-step document that I included so that you can actually follow it through.
Thank you.
All right, sister. And so we are ending.
There one more?
There was a gentleman, Steve. I don't know if he's still on.
His audio wasn't on. That's why.
Okay.
And Sister Vanessa, when you asked me to pause, I just put my question in the chat.
Okay. Ask a question so we can wind down. And so, do you see her question, Seth? So when your phone or when your tablet or anything asks if they want to save your password, should you go ahead and do that?
No, anything that's saved in the browser is not considered protected. So when your browser, whether it's Internet Explorer, Chrome, whatever, asks you, would you like to save that? It's not protected. So I wouldn't use it.
All right. So I know there are probably other questions because this short presentation does not cover all the questions there are when it comes to cybersecurity. And I'm sure Brother Melendez is saying, you guys wouldn't know. So Brother Dave says, thanks for that information, Brother Melendez. And I also would like to thank you so very much for spending these 2 hours with us and sharing your knowledge with us. And boy, you realize now how much we need another session of this. Maybe Sister Melendez, maybe you can, in your good graces.
Oh, anytime. I have no problem. I'm always
advocate for us. Anyway, it's a little bit past 9 and we are cognizant of people's time. And so we don't want to extend this any further. Brother Melendez has been more than gracious. And we thank you, Sister Melendez.